First of all, the colors on there are a little more yellow than they really are on the Loom, to be honest on that one. All right, move my bench over. And you might have seen this one. I believe I posted a picture of this. I can't remember where I post pictures sometimes. They just seem to appear. This is rug warp. This particular warp was hanging around, literally hanging around on my wall for probably more than 5 years. And if you know me, that rarely happens. I usually put things on, dye it, get it on, get it off. These colors were not my colors. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. My initial plan was to weave some dishcloths. However, I changed my mind. And what I did was I set it all a lot closer. And because now I do count and tag, I had to go back and literally count all the ends. So there's about 284, maybe a little bit more. And I set this at 20 ends per inch. It's about 14 inches wide. But I had never really done this particular weaving style. So what I do is I take some A2 cotton and I weave. Now this is between two placemats, so it's 4 inches. So there's going to be a thinner yarn, that is the first 2 inches. And then what I did was I took 4 strands of A2 cotton. 2 of them might be hard to see here. 2 of them are the moss green and 2 are kind of a chocolate brown, and I put them all together. If you decide you're going to do that, I'm going to caution you, because what happens is as you're winding them together, maybe you found out, sometimes they kind of loop a little bit and they don't go on together. So you have to be very careful with that. But what I wanted to do was I wanted to make some placemats that were a little thicker. And I didn't want to do anything that was too fancy because of the pattern. Right now I have it ready. I believe I have it ready to weave. Let me tighten it up a little bit. It's threaded at 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm just going to do the basic tabby weave. Now what happened though, since I had never used this yarn as placemats, I'm still getting used to it, and I had never woven with this thick yarn before, this way, I wasn't sure what the shrinkage was going to be. Well, of course I have, 15 yards on here. What I did was, I thought it wouldn't shrink a whole lot. So I wove 4 of these, there they are, and I machine washed and dry them. Well, first of all, it didn't shrink much in the width, pretty nice. However, this shrunk up a lot more than I expected. I think I had woven 20 inches on the loom for the thick, and it went down to 16. I'm so glad I took these off, washed them. Now what I'm doing is I'm weaving about 24 inches using the thick, and then I have 2 inches on each end. When I'm finished, I will machine wash and dry it all, be able to cut it and hem it. So that is the first project that I have, and I'm almost done with it. It's kind of fun. I think I'm going to do it again with, I don't have more rug warp, maybe some A2 cotton, I'm not sure. But the next time it's going to be colors that I prefer. However, this is kind of fall colors. And as we go loom to loom, you're going to think that this is a color theme right now in my studio. Wait till you see the next loom. What's on the next loom, the color that's on there. All right, so now this time I'm going to move again to another loom. However, I'm going to need to move the tripod. I'm going to do my best not to make anyone ill. So I'm going to go try to go slowly, kind of back it up. You might get to look at my computer and the floor and then my shoes. No dogs tonight. Let's see if I can get this in the right spot here so you can see what's going on. All right. Hello, Carol, and I see there's a Nina. I think that's the name is there. Of course, I moved the computer, the camera. Now I need to move the computer so I can see what's going on. And of course, I'm in my bare feet. That's what a lot of weavers do. Let me move that out of the way. This particular loom is a baby wolf. The other loom, the walnut colored, was the baby wolf as well. The walnut loom was one that I think Shat made back in the 90s. And I found it, got it used from a woman in Philadelphia. This is the same model, except it has 8 shafts to it. And that's what I'm weaving on this loom. I'm weaving one of the patterns that I actually sell several patterns as well as sell the finished product. So right now, you might be able to guess what I'm going to be weaving, something that's kind of popular this time of the year. But let me explain what this is. This is 8-2 cotton. It's about a 20-yard warp. And I set this one at 20 ends per inch. This color was hand dyed. What I do, again, if you see some of the things that I weave, I often take a very long warp and I dye it maybe 4 different colors. What I did with this one was 4 colors, and I'm able to get at least 4 towels out of each color. And I decided different patterns I was going to do on this one. My edges. Yeah, well, my edges are a lot of practice. And I hear one of the things on one of the, well, I call them forums, and I know they're Facebook groups, was somebody was asking how to get better selvages. Now, these are, I don't know if you can tell, these are very, very well-worn shuttles. Maybe these are some of my newer ones. No, it's even worn off. Anyway, they were use an end feed shuttle. You know, I don't use an end feed shuttle. And I forget what the other, floating selvages. You don't see floating selvages on any of my looms either. But I know it does help some people out there. Oh, 20 yards. You can even get more than 20 yards. There's actually a Shat group out there, Shat weavers or something. And someone has asked a question about that recently. I've put probably 22 yards on. When you do that, though, if you, in between your, the yarn, you just want to use some paper, not cardboard or anything. And of course, this is 8-2 cotton. If you're using something heavier, you might not be able to get that much on. Just a disclaimer there on that. This is going to be, I'll show you what the finished product, this is from a different, not from this loom. This was done maybe a couple months ago. This is what I'm going to be doing, pumpkins. The summer-winter pattern requires 2 shuttles to make the pattern. One is a block weave, and I'm making little blocks. Now, what you're going to see here, they're a little bit different. I'm trying a different technique this time. But what I do is I normally put a band on each side, and then I weave the little pumpkin or whatever it is inside, llamas, alpacas, sheep, all kinds of things. But this is as plain weave. For me, what I do is put the tabby weave in the middle because I'm weaving so much of it. I don't want to have my legs all or to one side trying to weave tabby. Anyway, that's my opinion on that. Now, the other thing I do is I have a little cheat sheet here that reminds me what I'm supposed to do. And right now I'm going to be, I already did part of this. Already did 2 and 8. With this pattern, it's not the one that I sell. It's a little more complicated. I have to use 2 treadles at a time. And you might hear me talking out loud. So I already did the 2 and the 8. Now I'm going to press down 3. Now, you see what happens if I press 3? These lift, but I don't have anything in there. So if I press the number 9, oh look, that's the pattern. I'm not going to go into a lot of explanation on this. If you want to know more about summer-winter patterns, there's a lot of things out there. So what I do for this structure is I put the color across, whatever it might be, but then I'm taking, this is 3-2 cotton, this is 10-2, I believe, 10-2. Then I go across, but I need to finish that block, and I'm going to go again. Hi, Amanda. Across. Now I'm finished with 1 row. And what I'm doing are the 2 in the middle are tabby. With this tabby, though, you have 1 and 2 are 1 tabby, and everything else is the other. But what happens is sometimes when you're doing this, sometimes they float. And I have a big rubber band down at the bottom to try to help keep that one from floating up too much. If you're interested in more about that, you can also go on my YouTube and find out a little bit more about it. Now I'm going to do a little bit more, the middle part of the pumpkin. Now, I just saw that I made a mistake. How about that? Now you're going to get to see me fix a mistake. How's that? This is one of those things that as I'm explaining something, I can see, and if you are, get this untangled here, I actually, let me see if I can get this out of here. I'm going to weave backwards. If you are a weaver that you caught that mistake, good for you. What happened, see if I can find it here, I pressed the wrong treadle. This is where you start to play around and try to figure it out what you did here. And if you can't figure it out, there's one of two things you can do. And I'll show you the shortcut since I'm on a recording right now, but this little hint just might come in handy for you. Right now I'm looking at the top here for a pair of scissors. And what happened was this did not go in the right place. And since I'm not by myself to figure out what happened, I'm going to cut this. Don't you love learning things live on? Take that out. And now I'm going to go back to where I was supposed to be. I was supposed to be on 4 and 8. Now I can tell I'm on 4 and 8. And what I do is I'm going to tuck this one in. This is also a good explanation if you basically ran out of the color. What do? I overlap them. And I'm going to allow that probably just to stick out the edge a little bit. Got some dog hair on there. I wonder where that came from. Now we go back, and I'm back in business. Now I'm going to do the 4, and it says 4 and 8. Do the tabby, 4 and 8 again. I'll cut that off later on, that little end there. The tabby. Then I have to do 4 and 9 again. This is a different kind. There are actually, I think, 4 different treadlings for summer, winter, if you decide this is something you'd like to try. If you happen to get the Handwoven magazine, in the back they have some patterns that it's a PDF that you can download, and one of them is a skull that I made. So yay, I'm published. Pretty cool. All right, now we're going to do the next part of the pumpkin. I'm not going to do the green part. I'll explain that, what I do then for that one. All right, so let me make sure I'm on the right one. 3 and 9. Do another 3 and 9. And then we have the last part of the orange part of the pumpkin, which is for this pattern, I need to press down 2 and 8. And another 2 and 8. And now what I will do is I am going to cut the edge of that one and tuck it in because I am finished with the orange for the spice, and go across. And I will show you what I would be doing next. And now what I have to do, because I only have 2 to do, so I'm going to switch to the dark green, and with the dark green is 1 and 9. Move to the top part of the pumpkin. I made some earlier too that were really a bright orange and a bright green. And we have one more to do, that very little top of the pumpkin, a little green. It's a little hard to see the green. I noticed that's one thing with the green and green. Sometimes it's a little hard to actually see the contrast. It'll be better once it's all machine washed and dried. And we go across. One more. So what I will do is I will continue weaving some tabby, and then I will do the border again and keep on going with that. After I'm finished with that, we'll go to the color that I have here. The other thing, often when I dye the warp, I often dye the weft as well. This time I had a little lighter shade just to give a little bit of a contrast. So that is loom number 2. And we will now move on to loom number 3. I feel like what's behind door number 1 and 2, right? All right, so let me bring this around. We'll take a look at, this is my spring loom. And you can see there, I think I just posted that on WAFA. That's the roll of fabric and I'm basically at the end. Yay, I'm at the end of the warp. There we go. Now this is actually the fabric that I'm wearing, but a different color. Now this shows you what it would look like after it's washed. This is also all hand dyed. I believe in both of these situations the warp was dyed, but the weft is a commercial yarn that I have here. This is tencel, 5/2 tencel in the warp. This time I'm weaving with an 8/2 tencel. I happen to have it on the shelf, and it'll make it a little bit lighter. This threading is one you can find in a lot of those magazines. I think there's a Strickler book this probably came from. This is the threading that I repeated over and over and over again. This is my treadling. I have the treadles all tied out, so this is tied up. This is normally what I post, a little post-it in front of me. This is telling me what it was, 18 ends per inch, 22.5 yards. And I'm also decided how many threads in each pattern. Now the other thing I have these little pins with numbers on them. What I do now, this is at 6 inches right now. Right now, I need to make this panel 5 feet. So right now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and all I need to do is get to the end of this and I'd be at 5. If I was going to go to 6, I would pick out number 5, if I have one on here. Yes, I would next put in my number 5 pin. I know there's all different ways of keeping measurement, it just happens to be what I do. Like I said, this pattern, what I'm going to do is just do one pattern of this, and I know what it is. And if you notice that this is a twill, and again, a lot of people say you need to have a floating selvage. I call my selvages organic, meaning that they're consistent. They might not be perfectly straight, but they're consistent. When you're making something to wear, it's not necessary to have it totally perfectly straight. It's not going to be laying on the table. It's going to be on a body. At least that's my reasoning or my excuse for not using a floating selvage. And I did learn from one other well-known weaver that she said there is only a few occasions that floating selvages do come in handy. Now, right now, I probably have one more pattern to do. Then what I'll do is I'll weave a little bit of tabby, cut it off, and I'll do a roll-off. basically the plan on that one. And I always loosen my warp when I'm done with that. Now we have one last